I know, it's been a while since I've last talked about our boy Steven, and I know how much you've all been waiting patiently. But when have I been known for keeping a schedule? If you've missed the first two videos, you might want to give these a watch before continuing on. It gives a better context to some of the things we'll be discussing.
In this neighborhood, someone's got to take out the garbage. Steven Seagal, out for justice.
After a pretty good 1990, Steven Seagal was on top of the world. He had two major box office hits under his belt, his movies attracted a variety of talented people, and Warner Brothers was ready to make more movies with him. So it was time for his next project, The Price of Our Blood. The title would be changed to Out for Justice, as Warner wanted a three-word title to go along with their other Seagal pictures. The story is said to be inspired by a true event, where a mobster shot and killed an undercover DEA agent, sparking a manhunt between the police and the mafia. In the real event, the mafia got to him first. Costabile Faraci was an associate of the Bonanno crime family, alongside his brother and cousins, one of whom was a made man. In 1979, he was sentenced to 7 to 21 years in prison for manslaughter, but managed to get out on parole by June of 1988. It was around this time he started selling narcotics, which led to setting up a cocaine deal with a man named Everett Hatcher. However, in February of 1989, Faraci would end up killing Hatcher by shooting him 3 times in the head, likely having become aware of who Hatcher really was. A 9-month manhunt began, ending with police finding Faraci dead after a report of a shooting came in. In 1997, a soldier and associate of the Lucchese family by the names of James Gallion and Mario Gallo admitted to murdering Faraci. Turns out that the Mafia weren't exactly pleased with Faraci's actions, so they had him whacked. In real life, the manhunt lasted nearly the entire year, whereas the movie takes place over the course of a single day. The one thing that they both have in common is its setting: Brooklyn, New York. The movie is easily one of the best Seagal has ever done, despite his shabby Brooklyn Italian accent.
You know, Vinny, I'm starting to get in a bad mood, you know? Maybe it's like a mood swing, my hormones, I don't know. You know, maybe it's my need to impose my will. But I want you to tell all the finokes in here to get up on the fucking table.
I think his performance can be compared to that of Jared Leto in House of Gucci, in that the hamminess of the performance and the cartoonish accents work within the confines of the movie itself. They are fully aware of what they signed up for and shoot for the moon. That's a pretty good microcosm of the movie itself. It doesn't try to be realistic or groundbreaking. It gives Seagal a gun and lets him run wild over Brooklyn. Even his superiors don't do much to stop him or tell him to stand down.
I'll feed you every dope dig and dive he's got. But let me do it my way. You just give me an unmarked and a shotgun, alright?
The 3 main characters in question are Gino Felino, that's a stupid name, the cop who goes on the revenge path, Bobby Lupo, played by Joe Spataro, Gino's partner who gets gunned down in broad daylight, and Richie Madano, played by William Forsythe, a crack addict and the culprit who whacks Bobby. Bobby, Gino, and Richie all grew up together on the rough streets of Brooklyn, so when Richie kills Bobby, Gino is the one who has to settle the score. Seagal's performance is not that different from that of his past roles. He's still playing some type of law enforcement who goes against the grain to dish out his own brand of justice, he still speaks in a low, gravelly voice, and he still does that Aikido flip with every goon, thug, and bad guy he crosses paths with. In a lesser movie, it would have been just another slice of Seagal cheese, but here, the director actually managed to bring out some decent acting chops out of the action star. Now, if you've been paying close attention throughout this little series, then you've noticed that I often talk about how Steven Seagal is surrounded by people both in front and behind the camera whose careers have gone on to become or were already bigger than his ever was.
You totally fucking nuts, so what? You could have killed somebody upstairs.
But there ain't nobody upstairs.
There's nobody upstairs. How would you know? Did you bust in a joint?
Cinematography was done by Rick Wade, who has made a career in the action genre with movies like Rambo 3, Cobra, and Marked for Death. He also worked on the 1984 movies Footloose and Red Dawn. That latter one proved especially useful, as that style of gritty, close-quarters action proved valuable for this film. Jerry Orbach plays the captain. Out for Justice was one of 8 movies to come out in 1991 to feature him. Probably the most famous of the bunch was his voice credit as Lumiere in Beauty and the Beast. He would reprise the role for their direct-to-video sequels and would also lend his voice for Aladdin and the King of Thieves and The Road to El Dorado. His first 2 film credits were as an extra on Guys and Dolls and Marty, which would earn a combined 12 Academy Award nominations. William Forsythe plays the villain. Prior to this movie, he had supporting roles in films such as Once Upon a Time in America, Raising Arizona, and Dick Tracy. His most recent big screen credit was in Cold Pursuit, where he played Liam Neeson's brother. This was the last on-screen credit for R. Lance Hill, otherwise known as David Lee Henry. He's best known as the writer of Roadhouse, and received a story credit for the 2024 remake. It wouldn't be a Seagal movie without some behind-the-scenes drama, and this one contains what is probably the most well-known story of them all, most likely because it's Seagal's most humiliating moment. Seagal was known for hitting stuntmen and treating them like dirt on a set. The story goes is that Seagal was bragging about being impossible to choke out, and so stuntman Gene LaBelle, who was working on the movie, decided to put that to the test. He managed to put Seagal to sleep within a matter of seconds, and, allegedly, caused him to defecate himself. Now, this detail of the story has become the subject of debate. LaBelle has refused to confirm or deny whether that happened, and witnesses to the event have said that while Seagal was choked out, he did not soil his pants. It's not hard to see why this detail gained traction. Seagal was already an unlikable figure at the time, and he's only gotten worse in the years since. Adding on the fact that he got the literal crap choked out of him is a nice little extra insult to what was already a humiliating event. What makes this movie stand out among the others is how seriously it takes itself. There's no cheese factor, no over-the-top villain to root against, not a lot of turn-off-your-brain moments. This is probably the movie that got people seeing Seagal and the potential for his career in a new light. The movie starts with a stakeout in a Brooklyn alleyway. Of course, Seagal's character, being the oh-so-righteous person that he is, jumps right into action to stop a pimp from beating up one of his women.
Who the fuck you think you are, huh?
You like to beat up on fucking women, is that it? Huh? Beat up on me, asshole.
Son of a bitch!
Not long after, Bobby is out and about in Brooklyn with his family when Richie runs up on him and kills him right there in the middle of the sidewalk, shooting him in broad daylight. From the jump, the movie sets its more grounded, maybe even darker tone. Richie is a coked-out maniac with very little regard for human life. He only cares about his next high or his next kill. Anyone who tries to stop him along the way is only going to lose. Naturally, the mob is getting sick of his antics, and so they start putting the pieces in motion to have him whacked. Problem is, Gino is wreaking havoc and wants to bring Richie down himself. Gino isn't just hunting down the man who killed his partner. He gets tangled up in a mystery where it turns out Bobby was having an affair with two women, one of whom was Richie's sister. Turns out, Bobby was a crooked cop who wanted the type of lifestyle Richie had. The scenes where Gino does investigative work is very moody. The lighting is done just right and gives almost a noir kind of vibe. While it's great to see Seagal kick ass and take names, it's also nice to see him, try and act for a change. The action is just as fast and brutal as you expect from a Seagal film, and with the mood that's being set, the violence hits a little harder and the deaths feel a touch more gruesome. It all concludes with a haunting confrontation between Gino and Richie.
That's for Bobby.
Oh, quick little side note. Gino saves the dog from his abusive owner, then knocks the owner out at the end, and the dog pees on him. I'm not sure where in the video I was going to put this part in, but it's too noticeable not to mention.
I will teach this man the price of our blood.
Out for Justice is the type of movie that proved that while he can only really play one character, Steven Seagal can give a more varied performance when the script calls for it. Although the previous movies weren't anything awful, this one stands above the rest with a gritty setting, an utterly despicable villain, and some dramatic weight to go along with the punches. Make no mistake, this doesn't reinvent the wheel on the action thriller genre, nor does it set a bold new path for Steven Seagal, but I can give it a lot of credit for trying to differentiate itself from previous Seagal pictures. It's a strong 5.9 out of 10. It's not the most well-made crime thriller, but it gives you more of what you expect. At this point, it's safe to say that Steven Seagal's career was no different from those of Dwayne Johnson or Jason Statham. They pretty much make the same movie over and over again, but the enjoyment comes from how each one is executed. That being said, Seagal was about to prove that he had potential to be not just a B-movie action star, but a bona fide silver screen superstar with international draw.
Steven Seagal.
I know you, don't I?
Tommy Lee Jones.
Been a long time.
Under Siege.